If a PhD candidate were put in charge of designing a city builder based on Roman history, they might end up making something like Pax Augusta. But is it any fun to play a dissertation paper? Watch on and find out. My name is Thoraxe, and this is Strategy for Busy People. If you've got a few minutes, I'll tell you what to play. Continuing with our investigation of city builders, on this installment of Strategy for Busy People, we are looking at Pax Augusta by Roger Gassman. I've got just under 7 hours in this game. City builders are an interesting genre because you're almost assuredly going to find a lot of the same mechanics in every one, but how they implement it often ends up being the difference between something great and something mediocre. In the case of Pax Augusta, the game has most of the things you would expect, but is also littered with so many mechanics that are apparently deeply influenced by Roman history that the game ends up playing completely differently, even though you're pretty much doing all the same things. Right off the bat, one of the interesting mechanics in the game is the quote, main road. Apparently Romans liked to live on Main Street and were quite unhappy if they didn't. When first founding your settlement, you need to somewhat X marks the spot decide where to plop the primary intersection, and then nearly all of your city building decisions are going to flow downstream from that one. The very next decision you need to make is where to place the city's founding altar, which is also a place that citizens really want to live near. But the added difficulty is that the altar is also the basis of your forum or city center of government, and that will need to expand as your city expands. And while you might just want to expand forever, depending on your rank as a governor of the settlement, you are somewhat constrained within a circle of that altar, or people get unhappy even if they are on Main Street. So, sure, you're going to have to plop down houses and water wells, but suddenly you're further influenced by these two mechanics. Can you put houses somewhere else? Sure. But they don't get a happiness buff from being on Main Street, which means they fill more slowly, which means slower tax revenue, yada yada. The complexity just spirals out from there. Yes, your people need food, but farms are actually rather inefficient and take up a huge amount of space and materials to construct. However, you can build lots of backyard farms for the lowest class of citizen housing, and this ends up being your primary food source in the early game. But the food farms come in all different sizes, just like the houses, so Tetrising everything together becomes its own challenge, especially near the intersection of the main roads. Once your people aren't starving to death, you could pivot towards worrying about keeping them happy. While it's no supermarket by today's standards, you need a large enough market to support the shopping needs of your citizens, but it seems that this market can be built way off outside the sphere of your altar. As your city grows, you need to continually expand the market, and as you up-level your citizenry, you also get access to more dense market facilities. Your people want religion and entertainment, and unsurprisingly, you can build these things, but temples can only be built on the forum, which means more things competing for limited space at the heart of your city. So, your initial people are happy and fed, and you have enough of them, which opens up the next level of housing. Now you have more needs. Fancier housing requires bricks to build, but building brick-making facilities is a big undertaking, and also requires a rather sizable slave market, as the source of labor for many of these raw materials production chains is slavery. I told you this game was historically accurate, didn't I? You can trade with other settlements to get the materials that you need, but this is rather slow going and requires its own trade infrastructure, like a trading station. If you get to a sufficiently developed settlement, you can also build a trade facility that lets you barter for resources, but the pricing on such trades is honestly pretty miserable. While you're doing all of these, you constantly have to add more scriptoria, or management buildings, to your forum. However, as you increase the scriptoria, you also increase corruption in your city, which reduces the productivity of most of the production facilities. I mention yet again the level of historical accuracy here. So basically, as you continue to grow your city, each milestone of population can open a new class of citizen, and you gain prestige for building certain things, which allows you to petition the emperor to grant you a higher rank, which lets you build a bigger city, and so on and so forth. And each new class of citizen has slightly more requirements for entertainment and other facilities, which requires you to expand your forum, which means more corruption, and so on and so forth. You might be thinking, hey, you just complained about Citadelum and the story mode and doing the same things over and over. And you would be right that Pax Augusta's story mode does suffer from a bit of the same repetitivitis that Citadelum's did. And I did abandon the story mode in favor of the simple career mode. But the main difference between Citadelum and Pax Augusta, for me at least, is the uniqueness of all of the game mechanics as they are tied to history. Before I give my final verdict, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Agree with me, disagree with me, or want to see other content? Let me know in the comments below. Want to try this game yourself? Check out my humble affiliate link below. And if you want to support me in making more of these videos, become a patron on Patreon. Your support really makes a difference. The final verdict. For essentially a solo dev project, this game is insanely impressive. It is rather slow-moving at times, but I think to a degree, all city builders can suffer from the, quote, hurry up and wait when you need to hit a certain milestone, and the only way there is through time. Manor Lords, which I also reviewed, seems like a game where the dev said, hey, I want to include some historical accuracy in how houses are built, and I'm a bit of a history nerd. And that game is great for it. But Pax Augusta gives you the sense that someone wanted to give you a PhD-level education on the inner workings of Roman cities and management in game form, and it does a stellar job of that. Yes, there is a little bit of jank in some of the menus, and oftentimes you're told to do a thing using a name of a building that now has a different name, but these are teething issues in an otherwise wonderful thing. On my trademarked 3-point score scale of avoid, meh, and I forgot to eat, there's really just generic food in this game, but that doesn't detract from the fact that this is an impressive project that I think you should put your hands on. Being a huge fan of Roman history, I think that this is one of the more unusual, in a good way, projects I've seen tackling the subject matter. However, even Rome fell. So I packed up my gnocchi and headed off to find some nice sauce to go with it. After all, Rome wasn't built in a day or on an empty stomach.